Hello and welcome back to another Off the Cuff chat with me, FPL Mez. And today I am so excited to have the amazing Bucks from FPL Press Play. FPL USA Press Play, I should say, actually. It's just that extra bit there. It's so fantastic to have you. I have been an avid listener of your podcast for a very long time now, and it was wonderful to be on your show last year, so it's even better to be able to bring you on my show and do it live as well. And during time, like the time zone that works for you as well, which is even better. So, Bucks, how are you? And welcome to the show. How's your international break going? Tell me a bit about yourself, all the things. Go for it.
Thank you so much, Meera. I am thrilled to be here with you on your Off the Cuff show. I've been a big fan of yours. I like to say that I'm part of the leadership of the Meera fan club over here in hashtag FPL USA. My name is John Bucks. I am a longtime Chelsea supporter and one of the three co-hosts of the at FPL USA Press Play podcast. That is a mouthful, but I like to speak, as you'll soon learn on this stream. And I'm thrilled to be here. I am a diehard Chelsea supporter, and this is my 5th season playing FPL. I won a lot of the mini leagues that I got involved with. I had a nearly top 10K finish in my first season.
Oh, wow.
And I have 4 top 100K finishes. But my podcast that I do and just being more involved and more active in the FPL community online has me really leveling up my game. So as the game itself is getting more convoluted and more difficult, I feel like I'm also trying to keep pace without losing sight of who I am and what makes this game fun for me.
Nice.
So thank you for having me, Meera. I'm really beyond thrilled to be here. And I know I'm just going to try and keep you and your listeners awake because it's after midnight on your side of the planet.
I have no idea if anyone is awake in Australia. If they are, even better, because that's just dedication. There's always a few people, but I imagine most of the folks on this side of the world will probably be listening to it as a breakfast session tomorrow morning. I would like to think so anyway. But Bucks, that sounds incredible. I can't believe that you got got the such a great like finish in your first season. I sort of talk about my first season. This is my fourth season playing, and my first season wasn't that great. Like I was just learning. I was starting out, learning about it. Were you following
Sure.
FPL beforehand before you got into it, or was it something that sort of picked up during that first season?
I'd played other fantasy sports, but I had never played FPL. But I've been a fan of the Premier League since about 2005.
Right.
So I was definitely in the know with what was going on. And I feel like that first season, there's like a little bit of beginner's luck or innocence where, team value or early transfers or taking points hits, because you don't know, it's kind of like very freeing. You could just
Yeah.
truly lean into playing your own way and not deal with all the noise or the feedback that it could be overwhelming at times in the FPL community, for better or for worse. And
Yeah.
I was making a lot of mistakes, but I just feel like my play style, I'm not someone who's going to go like, have bazooka level scores. I normally don't have 120 or 140 point game weeks. So I tend to be, slow and steady and very consistent. So in my game week history, I probably have a lot of high 60s to low 80s.
Yeah.
And because I don't have a lot of deviation from that, I just feel like my score over the season tends to be pretty consistently good enough to get me a good finish. And maybe this year I'm trying to change that a little bit. Last season, for context, I played my bench boost in game week 1. I was
Oh,
really
wow.
interested by that
Yeah.
in the community and how that freed up the rest of my season. It ended up biting me in the butt because towards the back stretch of last year, we wanted to have all those chips in the last 5 game weeks, and I
Yeah.
was all chipped out. And then this season, I'm similarly, I already used my triple captainship. As the listeners will soon find out, I'm
I
already on
did
wild
too.
card for game. Yeah, I'm already on wild card 4. So we're in good company. I feel like
Yeah, I
between me and
think
you,
so.
there's two top managers,
Yeah.
two very different play styles, and it's going to be a fun stream here.
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm loving it already. There's so many things that I want to sort of touch on there. Do you feel like over the last few years, the 5 years that you've been playing, has your philosophy on how you play FPL and like you mentioned that you played your bench boost in game week 1. I have thought about doing the same. I've thought about do I just set my team up as though it's a wild card and then just play the bench boost straight off, in that first game week.
Sure.
I haven't got around to trying that out, but I did play my triple captaincy in game week 2, so it's same as you. I'm not wildcarding at the moment. I'm very excited to talk about your wildcard in this stream.
Sure.
However, yeah, so over the last sort of 5 years, have you found yourself changing the style of how you're playing FPL and how you're sort of looking at, or how you're planning as well?
Yes and no. I know that's a typical at FPL underscore Black Wolf, who's my very handsome co-host from the UK. He's a legendary fence sitter, in my opinion. So I don't want to be like that, but it's evolved. But I always my play style is very much eye test based. So I watch at least the extended highlights for all 10 Premier League matches every game week. And I'll definitely be watching at least 2 or 3, the full 90, together with my 2 daughters. We wake up early here in the
Love it.
States. We watch the games. It's great because my wife loves it too, because she gets to sleep in on the weekend. So FPL is a real hack for husbands everywhere in the States that want to kind of gift their wife some extra sleep and some good graces in the to keep you out of the doghouse, so to speak. But I'm a pretty rogue manager. So I've been known to take a couple of -8 point hits in my
Yep.
career. I like to go in with a sense of planning, but no hesitation to just kind of blow it all up at a moment's notice. So hopefully I answered your question sufficiently, Meera.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's interesting because I've been trying to change how I play every season so far. So this season I've been a little bit more. I feel like I'm playing a bit more fearlessly. Like I feel a bit more comfortable playing FPL as well. First season, just kind of working stuff out. I think I played my
Sure.
triple. Funny enough, I played my triple captaincy in game week 2 or 3 on Salah. And it obviously, I mean, it didn't work out that well. I didn't know about the double game weeks, didn't really sort of calculate, the risk of playing a chip that early either. None of these things, came to mind. But over the years, I've sort of changed the way I'm playing and how I'm approaching planning, how I'm approaching the chips, how I'm thinking about double game weeks, and all of these things. I've sort of changed it along the way. This is probably the first season where I've sort of gone, you know what, I'm going to play with my heart. I'm just going to play with what I think I'm going to, enjoy. It's going to bring me the most joy. Like making early transfers, I'm like, screw it, I'll do it, whatever.
And how does it feel? I rank aside, or I know you're having a good start to the season, but
Yeah.
does it feel better? Does it feel like you're, betraying the kind of analytics part of your game from previous seasons?
Yeah, it's a really good question. It's been really tough, balancing that because I did heavily lean on the analytics side. So I was using whatever models I could get my hands on. I was using things
Sure.
like FPL Review. I was looking at, I think, Fantasy Football Scout in, early days as well. This is the first season where I'm, light touch looking at Review as a bit of a pulse check on, what the minutes look like and, what the expected points look like. But I'm not really using it on a sort of it's not really guiding my decisions as much as I thought it would as it had in the past. So now I'm mostly sort of looking at it as a bit of a heat map of what sort of players I'd be thinking about, but I'm now using eye test predominantly. And I feel like I'm a bit more comfortable with, how the game is being played, how the fixtures are going, the teams a little bit more as well. So same as you, like being over here in Australia, it's really difficult to watch the matches. And so you're
Sure.
relying on, just catching the highlights the next day. I'm usually, making pancakes in the morning, catching the highlights on Sunday morning for the overnights of the games. And it's not the same. Like I'll try and wake up and sort of stay around for the Liverpool matches as much as possible. Or if it's a big match on and it's at a, fairly reasonable hour. But I feel like I've got more comfortable watching them as highlights, and the highlights are pretty good over here as well. We sort of get to watch the whole match, or it gives you the 9 minute or the 15, 25 minute sort of version as well. So it's got better over the years. So I feel a bit more comfortable watching them than just using data to make decisions. So I think it's come with a bit more confidence more than anything.
I really rate what you're saying, and I just want to dive in a little bit to unpack that for the listeners, because from my point of view, and I think maybe you'll echo this, if you're a serious Premier League fan, if you're really in deep, I rate your ability to know what's going on in the league more than I do the robots or the models,
That's
because
it.
as much
Yeah.
as we can program in X minutes and X goal involvements, you can't really put numbers on form
No,
and,
you
the
can't.
FDR, the fixture difficulty rating. It's mumbo jumbo bullshit. Excuse my language.
No, feel
So
free.
it's, so it's, I really just think that, like, if you look at the FDR and you use that as kind of your guiding post or your guiding Bible, so to speak, of who the best matches are, you've already lost FPL. Because
That's it.
if you look and you see Tottenham is a red fixture for attackers, that makes no sense. If you look and you see, West Ham right now is marked as a just a gray dot, where
Yeah.
this is a new West Ham team, this is a new Brighton team, as perfect examples. These are, classic mid-table teams that have really leveled up in the last couple of seasons. So that's not a cupcake fixture anymore, and that's definitely not a fixture that you're like racing to start, let alone captain your attackers in. So I just think the dynamics, there's more of an advantage in the new framework of FPL for the
Yeah.
engaged manager, but that doesn't mean that there's less variety in successful play styles. And I in fact think, and something we're talking about on our podcast a lot, is that this season I think is probably going to be the hardest season of FPL to date. But I
Absolutely.
think it's also going to be the most fun
Yeah.
because there's just so many different strategies, so many different pathways that could get you to a good rank and get you to a good team each and every game week.
Absolutely. And look, while we're on the topic, tell us about the podcast. As I mentioned,
Yeah.
when we started chatting, I've been an avid listener for, quite some time and came on your show last year as well, which was a lot of fun. And, more recently, I've just noticed Brian's in the chat as well. Hey, Brian. And hello to everyone that has been able to join the live stream today. Hey, Elena, lovely to see you. Great to see that you're able to catch it live this time as well. Thanks to the timing of it. But yeah, I've really enjoyed listening because it's so it's not sort of heavily stats and data driven, and it's not sort of there's plenty of content there out there, for stuff like that. And I love the conversational side of it. I love the sort of the different sort of spin that you guys bring to it as well. How did that come about? How did you get started? And just before we started the stream, we were saying how like Dan and you have not met either. So Dan is Black Wolf, for those that don't know.
It's a great question, and I'm happy to recount it. Hi, Brian. Brian is actually the sick degenerate who got me addicted to FPL in the first place. We are longtime friends through a mutual acquaintance, and we've always played basketball together. He's from Wisconsin. I'm from New York, and anytime we were in town, we always tried to sync up. And he reached out kind of out of the blue one day and was like, "Hey, I know you follow Chelsea pretty diehard level. Do you want to join this fantasy Premier League thing?" And that was 5 years ago. And I took him and his buddies' money that first season, and they've been clawing it back ever since over the last couple of years. And after that first season, Brian, it was COVID. There wasn't a lot of things going on for a young parent outside the home. I was pretty neurotic and shut down in my small New York City apartment. He was like, let's start some content. We were really inspired by the hashtag, by the Always Cheating guys, who are also members of the hashtag FPL USA.
Yeah.
And we actually chose to level up thanks in large part to Black Wolf. So Dan and Brian both live out in California. I'm here in New York. And it's nice because we've really kept the ethos of our podcast, which is just like friends catching up over footy. And so it's all about vibes. It's all about, we don't dive deep into XG. We don't dive deep into kind of predicted outcomes. We talk about the best matches that we feel are for hauls, and then we just go totally unhinged. And every game week for me, it's like 5 or 6-0, even though that never comes true. So it's just all about feeling. And I play FPL, and I know Brian feels the same way. We play FPL to deepen our love of the Premier League. For Brian, it's FPL first. For me, it's Chelsea first. So that's reflected in the difference in our team structure and the way that we play. And then Black Wolf has been a great addition to the madness because he's a little bit more of a pragmatic manager. He's often the voice of reason, talking me off the cliff of doing something foolish.
Yeah.
But this season, I've incepted him, Meera. I'm sure you've heard it on the last couple of episodes. He's making early transfer moves.
He is.
He's weighing up. He already weighed up a hit, and then we had to talk him out of it. So it's just funny when you come together and do this content week in, week out, how, you make quick friends with total strangers like us two. And then those total strangers end up like rubbing off on you and having significant influence over this fantasy game that, can end up ruining your weekend depending on how it goes. So the human brain and the FPL community, they're both very interesting things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting you say how it could ruin your weekend. It will, I know what you mean. I tried the first couple of seasons at the very least, playing FPL from I'm going to just detach from it. I think my first season, I got really hung up on all the decisions I was making, and I was taking, minus 12 hits. I was taking minus 8s on a regular basis, like I'll have minus 8 for lunch and, maybe another minus 4 for dinner. Why not? And then realized that this is not, I think I took 44 hits in my first season. It was ridiculous.
I've been there.
Yeah. And I did not feel good because obviously I was getting red arrows all the time. But after that, I started to detach myself from the process of planning, decision making, all of that. So once my team was set and the deadline had passed, I'd moved on from it. And at that point, I'm enjoying the matches. Like even when I did so last game week, and we'll touch on our game week 3 teams in a mo. But last game week, I captained Mo in my, because I've got both Mo and Haaland. And obviously, Liverpool played their match, last of the weekend games. And so right up until then, I had no idea how things were going to go, but I was fairly satisfied with the 700 and something red arrow that I had on live FPL when I was looking at it. I was like, oh yeah, whatever, I can't change the outcome anymore. I can't change anything here. I just have to, enjoy the Liverpool match because I love watching them play. But it's taken me a while to get to that point. I think last season I started doing a little bit more of that, but the first 2 seasons I was really sort of, looking at watching the matches, sometimes not enjoying it as well. So I had to just change the mentality around it and feel better for it as well. But hard getting there.
Totally. I think it's a great place to transition. Let's talk about game week 3.
Yeah.
But before then, I think you mentioned something like health is wealth. And I know Black Wolf, our co-host, is going through a little bit of a health scare at the moment, and we're so glad that he's prioritizing himself. FPL should not be in charge of your mentals and be impacting to a way that you are like really angry and going about it ruins the weekend. I say it in jest. When Chelsea lose, I can't help it. I'm a little bit of a sourpuss, but it's just a game. And if it's not fun, you could always just close the app. And I don't think deleting a team is, a mature move, but whatever prioritizes each individual manager. I'm not here to, be the angry Karen in the room saying, you can't delete your team.
I've seen it happen.
Exactly. Yeah, play your own game. I think this should be fun, right? I'm having fun. Are you having fun?
I am. I'm loving it. And it's hilarious. Like I was looking at my my feed and just seeing so many wildcard drafts, and so today I thought, you know what? I'm just going to make a wildcard draft and put it out there as well. Why not? Like I want to get in on the fun, but I'm not going to play my wildcard. But I want to get in on the fun.
You might. Never say never.
I don't know. I feel like my team's in a good place. We'll come to that in a mo. But let's get cracking with the show itself. And it was great chatting a little bit about you, Bucks. It's been great to get to know you as well. So, but let's talk about game week 3. So we are going to do, for the sake of everyone listening as well, so I've now been posting this up as a podcast as well, which has been new for this season, and a bit of an adjustment, especially from talking about the teams and just describing what's on the screen when I'm streaming this or doing a YouTube video. Obviously, you guys are very much used to just it being a podcast, and so you're very good at describing everything. But I'm still getting used to that.
We'll take the compliment.
I'll do my best, and you'll have to just remind me if I miss anything, because you guys are the pros with doing the podcast version. So Bucks, tell us a little bit about how your game week 3 went. So I've popped your team up on the screen. Tell us about how many points you got and how it went.
I love the graphical elements, Meera. This is something 3 dumb blokes from the USA could never do, with video and the audio at the same time. That's above our pay grade. I'm having a decent season. I was on 84 points. Obviously, my rank looks much stronger because, like you, I triple captained Haaland in game week 2 against Ipswich to great effect. My gamble on swerving Salah for Saka has not gone exactly according to plan. And unfortunately, I let Brian, my co-host, shout out at FPL USA Brian. He incepted me to a large degree about some of my picks. So Muniz was someone who I was kind of always middling. I was more Chris Wood, and he was like, "Oh, Muniz, the fixtures, that run at the end of the season." He got in my head, and he twisted the knife, so to speak. But I'm having a good season, and the reason for wildcarding isn't necessarily a sense of urgency. It's more of a sense of playing it from a position of strength.
Yeah.
So I just feel like rather than using free transfers, which I don't have so many, I just have two in the bank. I just want to be able to play the wild card, bring in Salah, who I'm very jealous of managers like you, Meera, that have Haaland and Salah. I think that is the most beneficial, the most productive alchemy. And so I'm just going to wild card my team into that and play aggressive, which is in my nature.
Nice, nice. And for the sake of audio listeners, do you want to just read out your team as well?
Absolutely. So from the back, I have Dean Henderson in goal. Guy stinks. I have Gabriel, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and Rico Lewis. I have in midfield Gordon. I had Diego Jota, Saka, and Eze. And then leading the line, I had Haaland captain, never fails, Rodrigo Muniz, and Alexander Isak. But this team will be pretty different by the time Game Week 4 deadline comes around.
Yeah. That's great. I have to admit, I'm jealous. I've made early transfers and brought in Trent. Yeah, I know we'll come to our teams soon, but yeah, just having Trent with those clean sheets have just been really hard to watch. So yeah, great. I'm really loving the back line that you've got there, and obviously that's all going to change. But I will jump to my team.
I can share this, Meera. Trent is not going anywhere. Trent and Rico Lewis. I almost feel like whether you're wild carding or just using free transfers, those two lads have to be very close to the top of any transfer watch list or priority bring-ins.
Nice.
Based on their price and the way that they're playing.
Yeah. That sounds good. I noticed like Curran FPL is in the chat as well. So it's one of our Sydney FPL managers over here from the Australian community.
He was on the last episode.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that he is joining us, at 12:30, but past midnight. But love it. Thank you so much for being there, Karen. Great to have you. So my team, I've had a really good start to the season. I'm really happy with it. Hopefully it will last. I'm trying not to look at the rank a bit, I try not to look at it so early on. I learned to do that.
Don't be humble, Meera.
I'm killing it. What can I say?
Yeah. Eat my dust, haters.
No, I learned the hard way last season. I was hovering around 2 million, 4 million, that kind of mark for a very long time last season. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to share the highs and lows. And I started the show last season as well. So I was definitely sharing the low, and there were plenty of the lows as well. But no, this season it's been really good so far. I think like going with the Salah and the Haaland pick has made all the difference there. But it's also been the other players as well. So, Smith Rowe getting a couple of, good scores here and there as well. Having Havertz in there has been great. He's been really consistent as well. So I've got Henderson as well in goal, which hasn't been great. But not getting 86 points though, despite that, with Porro's 1 pointer, Gabriel's 2 pointer. Robinson's been a blessing to have in the side as well. That's been really good. But look, I went Jota, Rodgers, Smith Rowe, Salah in the mid, and I played Haaland, Isak, and Havertz. So I decided to, from a formation, go for 3-4-3. It's been good playing that, and I think it's just worked out really well. I'm not stoked about some of the enabling, the cheap enablers that I've got in the team, and that's the downside of having those two very expensive premiums. And you can see I don't have any Liverpool. I mean, I had Quansah. Quansah's been on my bench, just been sort of, sitting there. What a transfer, honestly, that's been. But yeah, it's okay. I moved on from that. But happy with how the season's going so far. And like you, I played my triple captaincy in game week 2. Game week 3, I captained Salah. Didn't know how that was going to go, but I think, yeah, it wouldn't have mattered if you captained Salah or Haaland if you had both, because they got the same number of points. So yeah, happy with where that landed. Yeah.
I want to just shout out, your team is very different than a lot of the content creators template that we see on social media. And I really like how you've leaned into double Liverpool attack. And then a player that I don't have, and he's scorned my Chelsea Blues more than once, to say the least, is Kai Havertz. And Brian has him in his team. And I really think that Havertz is going under the radar as one of the best picks for FPL. I know there's a lot of planning going on in the community about how to maybe go from Saka to Salah, then maybe back to Saka.
Yeah.
And I think that there's a non-0% chance that I'll just swerve Saka entirely and look to get Kai instead, because I almost feel like the upside for points potential is actually leaning towards Kai as opposed to Bukayo. And I apologize for the New York City background noises. I have moving trucks in my neighborhood trying to find parking.
Can't hear a thing.
All good. Even
That's
better.
Brilliant.
I made it up. It was in my head.
I heard you guys talk about that, about skipping, Saka entirely and just sticking with Havertz, having Kai in the team. And yeah, I've been celebrating Havertz's goals and sort of, points with Brian on Twitter as well, which has been a lot of fun. I haven't seen many well, at least I'm not following many managers that have Havertz in their side as well. So I think earlier on it's been a different, he's been a differential to have. So really good. Sure. I've transferred him out. A bit of a spoiler.
Oh no!
A bit of a spoiler for my game week 4 side. I've transferred him out. But before we jump to our game week 4 team, shall we take a look at
You got spooked by that Tottenham fixture, which is red in the FDR.
Not so much that. I really wanted to bring in a different player, which we'll come to. But I wanted to hold on to Isak as well before I know 2 away fixtures coming up for Isak, but. Yeah, I was tempted to just hold on to him. And then, I think when I transferred Havertz out, I was thinking about wildcard later and potentially bringing him back in or bringing in Saka. So I thought, you know what, I'm not going to play defense. I'm just going to go on the offense and just go for it as much as possible and see what happens. But let's jump to the fixture ticker.
Meera, you haven't done any wrong so far this season. No. So I'm sure Havertz, he's going to blank and be a bogey for anyone who's keeping him. I know that for certain.
I hope so now. No, I don't want to put that out into the universe. I feel like it's just going to do the opposite or something. There's a couple of, so Mr. T Tendai, lovely to see you as well. I'm just looking at the chat really quickly.
No worries.
We'll take some questions a little bit later, but I'll sort of pop this one up. This is great. As an Arsenal fan, everything goes through Saka. He's our main man on the penalties. Havertz is good, but only when Odegaard. Playing well, and in addition to Saka. Yeah, completely agree. I think it's not so much the Spurs fixture. I think it's just kind of playing the other fixtures as well. Like it's not about just that fixture. And yeah, I could have held on and saved myself an extra transfer, but we can roll so many transfers and we can roll through our wildcards and everything as well. So yeah, Bucks, go.
I just want to respond to the penalty shout. Because not to betray who I am, but the data is showing that this season there are just no penalties to be had. It's been the least amount of penalties through 3 game weeks by like a healthy margin. It's statistically significant. It's gone from on average about almost 2 penalties given a game week to less than almost like a half a penalty given a game week so far this season. So that's just something to be mindful of.
That's such a good point.
Saka is a great season keeper. He's one of those players that it can be frustrating because he's just very consistent. So, you can almost go into most game weeks thinking he's going to get somewhere between 5 and 8 points.
Yeah.
But what Kai offers is that haul potential, the double-digit return. And when he's leading the attack, as much as everything is skewed towards the right-hand side of Arsenal going forward, it ends up always coming back to the middle. And Kai just happens to be there with his very tall, goofy, donkey-like figure. And he's just, heading the ball into the back of the net or kicking it in on, first touch.
You're making me regret my decision now.
He looks silly doing it, which is a big knock in his corner. But he's a brilliant player. And,
yeah.
There was a reason Chelsea got him. There's a reason Arsenal's gotten him. And now that he's fully bedded into Arteta's attack, he looks to be unleashed, so to speak.
Absolutely. So look, I've got a couple of charts. We don't need to go through all of them, but they're there if we need to talk through them. I love looking at the Lego Mane's fixture ticker. It just kind of gives me a bit of a sense check. I usually sort of print it out. You might see a patch of it on my board over here as well. It's just useful to have a look at that as well. But key matches for you this game week. Which ones sort of stand out? Actually, let's look at this one. This is probably better to have a look at. This is the other sort of Rob T FPL graphic that I like looking at as well. Just there's a couple that get posted closer to the deadlines, which is so useful. Like this one's just fantastic. Like you get to see the goals and the clean sheet odds there, but you can just see the key matches there. So Bucks, for you, which ones stand out? Because we don't need to talk through all of them. There's a couple there that I'm definitely interested in, but which ones are you looking forward to this weekend?
So I think for managers on Wildcard 4, and really the reason that it makes sense to maybe use the chip now is to get on the Brighton guys. And that Ipswich fixture is just delicious. I mean, there's a potential, and I think there's a real likelihood that this is like 3-4-5-0 to Brighton, the way that they're playing, and they're really cruising. And Ipswich, they're not taking a lot of shots. They're not creating a lot of chances. And yes, they've had really hard fixtures to start the season, but they're kind of going in through it. They're going through the motions without necessarily making a big fight or fuss about it. So I think with the form and this matchup, the Brighton triple up and even maybe a Brighton triple up in attack is very much on the menu because of their pricing and the potential for, big returns and big rank gain getting on those guys. Yeah, agree.
I so far have only sort of factored in one Brighton player, and I feel like it's not enough, but it's probably okay as well for not wildcarding as well. But the other match that, makes me, we talked about this ever so slightly anyway, like the derby itself. So the North London derby is going to be a fantastic watch. Like I'm very much looking forward to that. As a neutral, it's a good match to be part of. So not having any Arsenal attack, not having any Spurs attack in my side is probably the thing that I'm least sort of, I'm not excited about the match, watching the match with just two defenders and one of which is probably going to be sitting on my bench this time round. But that's one match that I'm really looking forward to. And it's really interesting to see like the number of goals predicted and the clean sheet odds there as well. It's very low.
Yeah, I was going to say, spoiler alert, I'm in the same boat. I have 0 attackers from Arsenal and Spurs in my wildcard draft. And I actually think that this match is going to be like, get your popcorn out, be locked in on the couch 5 minutes early, have already gone to the bathroom, because this could be like a heavyweight fight. And I think it's going to be even more exciting and entertaining because of the Arsenal injuries and suspensions. I mean, Declan Rice not being in the side, potentially Odegaard, who's going to miss a couple weeks at minimum. So I think that there's just a lot of unknowns with Arsenal in the spine of their midfield. And that's going to be really interesting because Spurs want to play a counter-attacking style. So if Rice isn't there to kind of shut it all down, I think this could be end to end and really entertaining. I was predicting 3-2 on our podcast,
Yeah.
but seeing these numbers, I don't think Rob T is doing us justice. The bookies need to be smashing the over
Yeah.
because I definitely will here in the States come Sunday.
I reckon it's going to be a 3-2 to Arsenal. They'll probably
Mhm.
just kind of edge it there, maybe 3-3, depending on. So do you think in that case, do you think Havertz will play a little bit deeper because there is also no Rice? I mean, I keep forgetting that they've now got Sterling there, they've got Raz there. How's that going I have no idea how Arsenal are going to line up is basically where I'm getting to. And that was, I mean, I took out Havertz earlier than, realizing that all these changes were going to happen in the side. But yeah, I don't feel confident about how Havertz is going to play in this particular match.
It's a great unknown. Trying to get inside Mikel Arteta's head is that's a scary place. So count me out on that
Yeah.
rescue mission. But I think there's a high likelihood Jesus leads the line, maybe even Raheem Sterling slots in as the 10, so
Yeah.
Havertz could then lead the line. But Arsenal are kind of spoiled for choice on that left wing and kind of false nine role. So Raz has played false nine before. It's not his preferred position. But I actually think, I'm in the minority from a Chelsea perspective on that Raheem Sterling saga. That was brilliant business from Arsenal. And
Yeah,
I
I
fully
agree.
expect that he's going to push Trossard and Martinelli to the bench. I expect as soon as the second international break. So I think in the next 3 game weeks, it's going to be kind of the time to dream for Raheem. And that's what it's all about for FPL, is kind of getting in a game week early on players like that who have, that track record of FPL points. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't be scared though about Havertz. If he plays the 9, if he plays the 10, he's going to be involved, and it's a very fluid attacking system that Arsenal have. I think there are chances to be had for him, and if he gets enough good service, he'll probably bang in at least a goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I reckon so. I reckon so as well. So yeah, fingers crossed. It'll be a fun match. I'm no doubt
Or
about that
he could also
whatsoever.
get a red card. He could just do a silly
Oh my
celebration and
god.
accidentally kick one of the Spurs players, and all of a sudden you're looking great with him suspended for the next couple matches.
It's so unpredictable, right? Like when that red card was pulled. I mean, so actually, do you think that was a red card for Rice?
No, no.
Yeah.
I think I'm not kind to the referees in the Premier League, and I won't double and triple down on that. But it's just about consistency. I think all the clubs are just asking for the same thing, and we as fans want to know, because I played football growing up. I played center defensive mid actually, and it's just you want to know what's a yellow card, what's orange card, what's a red card, and what's just like a talking to. And this season it's been wildly inconsistent. I mean, João Pedro kicks the ball away, kicks it basically halfway up the field, and Declan Rice toe pokes it just a little bit to the side, and one
Yeah.
gets a yellow card and
It's
one is
mad.
totally, it's madness. So it's not fair to the players, but it's not right for the fans, because the no one's paying to see the refs, right? The less
Yeah.
they're heard from, the less they're
That's
involved.
such a good point. That's
Probably
such a
means
good
for a better
point.
match.
Absolutely, absolutely. It was ridiculous. I think the two matches that I'm probably a little bit more interested in is the Liverpool versus Forest, which is a home fixture, and then of course City versus Brentford, which is also a home fixture, and probably two very good captaincy picks as well. What do
Totally.
you reckon, Bucks? Like, where are you sort of leaning towards? Like, if you had both, and you are wildcarding into both, I believe, right?
Yes, yes. I'm a Holland truther. I don't go against the Norwegian in this regard. I think the biggest quirk in FPL this season is that Holland has 7 goals and Mo Salah has 3, and yet they're tied on total FPL points with 41, which just shows you the advantage of being classified as a midfielder and getting that extra
Yes.
point.
Yeah.
The clean sheet points all these, these one pointers just add up in the course of a season. So that has big impact. But I actually think that Brentford is, this is being classified as a pretty one-sided match from the bookies odds. But I think that Brentford get a goal, and I think they actually make this a tighter match than Forest will against Liverpool. So it's kind of mismatch between head and heart in what I'm saying here. But I just can't. Holland, I think, when he's fit, the whole team is operating to get him goals. So I think there's a realistic scenario where we're coming out of game week 4 and the guy has 10 goals through 4 games. So he might make it back to back hat tricks.
It could be hat trick of hat tricks. Yeah, could be. Yeah. Can see that happening.
And then Villa is the other big, I think, big one-sided match here.
Yeah. Yeah, agree.
Everton. Sorry to the other team on Merseyside, but Liverpool look amazing and Everton look like absolute dog shit. I mean, like you wouldn't clean it up. It looks so disgusting if it was your dog,
I mean, that last match, they were playing Bournemouth. Was it Bournemouth, right? Bournemouth. Yeah. Oh my God. Like just getting
at home too. Oh my God. These fans, I feel for them.
Yeah, that was bad. That was really bad. Yeah, no, I think that's going to be a good one. So I have Rodgers only at the moment. And what do you reckon's going on with Watkins there? Because I've not seen many wildcard drafts bringing him in, and obviously Villa's got a decent fixture run. I'm just going to have a look at the fixture ticker again while we're there. So Villa's got Everton, Wolves, Ipswich, and then United up to game week 7. So the next 3 are really good. And 2 of them are home fixtures.
The next 6 are really good. The next 6 are
I agree. Like right up until, even Spurs, right? That's a really good fixture. So right up until game week 10, Villa's got really good fixtures. Watkins rarely in drafts at the moment.
Yeah, it's just that he's not passing the eye test by any means, and he's clearly injured. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. We love our Ollie Junkyard Dog Watkins on the FPL USA Press Play podcast, but right now he's just being outplayed and outclassed by John Duran coming off the bench. And with the Aston Villa UCL draw starting in short order, it's just a little too risky and unpredictable because we don't know if he's going to get 60 minutes or if he's going to be really leaned on the way he was last season as kind of a total 90 beast. Yeah. And there's a big difference there.
Yeah, agree.
And he's stealing points from all of us Morgan Rogers owners too, because the fact that Rogers has 0 returns, where he is absolutely he is lighting the eye test on fire. He is just passing it in such spectacular manner, and he's just being let down by Bailey and Watkins with that finished product.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he's due. There's so many players right now that are due some type of even Trent, right? Like he could have easily had a couple of 15 pointers, easily.
Sure.
And I keep thinking about the time, and there was a tweet that I saw. I can't remember who it was. I think it was FPL Matt, who had said Trent captaincy. And funny enough, Karen and I, captained Trent last season, where he was due a haul and he got 0 points, and so we got nothing.
Oh, brutal.
Yeah, it was awful. And then the following week, obviously, we didn't captain Trent. I didn't captain Trent anyway. And he got a 15-pointer. And so I was like, well, you could, but you might want to wait a week. It's probably not going to happen. Who knows? But yeah, I think Trent's definitely due his haul soon. There are a couple of questions coming into the chat, but we will jump to those in a mo. I will keep track of those for those that are popping questions in the chat. So don't worry, I'll get to those. Any other fixtures that sort of stand out for you over here? I think Wolves, Newcastle could be good. Interesting that from a clean sheet odds, it's not that dissimilar. 16%, 24% there for Wolves, and then Newcastle. I would have thought that would have been I don't know, a bit more better for Newcastle, given Chelsea shipped 6 goals against
Six,
Wolves.
yeah.
Sorry, Dan. I know you're going to be listening to this afterwards.
Don't apologize to him. Don't apologize, please. He deserved it. He deserved it. We got him a Chelsea. We got him a Wolves jersey to start last season. So,
Aw.
yeah, we love a good pup, but the Wolves defense, no one loves them, not even their own mothers.
Yeah. Ah, brilliant, brilliant. Do you think we're
For
rightfully
me,
jumping off of Newcastle players, though?
probably not. It's probably just a long-term play here, or like Newcastle for me are the most confusing team to start the season because I
Yeah.
really felt great about them based on their form last season. And, selling Minte at a desperation where Minte looks like a really class player to Brighton, that seems like a really confusing move to raise funds. And they're just a little thin at a lot of key positions. They don't really have a, a boatload of quality options on the wing.
Yeah.
And with Callum Wilson gone, it's kind of, if it's not Isak, Gordon, and Barnes, who the hell is getting goals for this team?
Yeah.
And then, with Shar losing his mind with that red card, they're just, I don't see them being a serious contender for European competition next
No.
season. I think this is the return to kind of their level. I think they'll probably finish seventh or eighth, right around where I expect United to finish.
I've just seen Dan has tuned in. So Black Wolf has tuned in, and let me just pop this up on the screen there.
Right as the slander hits, right? Here, it's always
That's
that
it. Yeah,
happens.
yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, they're talking about me. Good to see the second most handsome press play host on the show, listening while working, guys. Much love.
That's that's not kind to Brian. I know I'm the third. It's all good. It's the
You're all,
beards. I can't grow a beard like those two guys.
yeah, it must be the beard, actually. Yeah, who knows? I think, yeah, Chelsea, we'll jump to our bus teams to have a quick look. Actually, before we
Sure.
do that, I really like this. So I think this is the new edition that Lego Mane's been putting out this season, which is
I saw this.
super handy to have. And I think we all sort of vaguely know who we're captaining based on the team, makeup that you've got, right? In my case, right now, and soon to be your case as well, we've got players like Haaland and Salah. Look, I've got Isak as well, but it's going to be rare for you to have, more than 3 players or 2 players even, depending on the combination of players that you have, from this chart. So you got, Haaland, Saka, Salah, Watkins, Son, Palmer, Isak for captaincy picks over the next sort of 4 to 11. So game week 4 to game week 11. But this week you can see, Watkins is it's a really good opportunity. It's a home fixture for Villa. Salah, of course, against Forest. Haaland against Brentford. Do you use anything like this to kind of give you, or are you just playing your captaincy picks on vibes like me? Like I captained Salah last game week.
I look at the fixtures. I don't want to be dismissive of that.
Yeah.
But I'm not like, I don't check Hub or Scout or Review to see what the, expected points are, because I often feel like this. I love Lego Mane's visuals. I think they are one of the best creators in the hashtag FPL community. But for me, this can be a little misleading because if you just look closely at this chart, the jump out for me is that Chelsea and Manchester United are marked as not green fixtures. And as much as I am a homer for Chelsea, our defense might stink. We might be one of the worst 5 or 6 defenses in the Premier League this season.
Yeah.
So, for example, as I'm looking at my wild card, Semenyo, who's looked like a talisman for Bournemouth with Solanke leaving, I think he could absolutely haul. He could get a goal and assist without really breaking too much of a sweat against this Chelsea team in game week 4. So things like that are worth considering, and that impacts the way that you are planning. But for me, I just think that Haaland and Salah, that could be enough. If you just have those two guys, you're going to have a quality captain pretty much each and every game week. And that's kind of the reason that I am wild carding. I want to have
Yeah.
Salah in. He's the he's the king for a reason. And we should all hail to the Egyptian king because he just brings the FPL points in boatloads.
Absolutely. And it's a great segue to talk about your game week 4 team. So,
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Bucks, you are on wildcard. Talk us about your wildcard. Yeah. Did you press wildcard? Did you activate your wildcard straight away as soon as like the game week?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
So the reason I hit the wild card right away is threefold. I had Diego Jota, and he's been doing a masterful job of point swerving so far this season. Watching the game, he is very involved, but it just doesn't feel like the final ball is ending up on his boots or on his head the last couple games, and so that's been a little cruel. And then I have Trent, and I really feel like the Trent pick is almost essential.
Yeah.
It's cruel to Trent owners that he's not one of the top three highest scoring players in the game because he had a give me assist to Jota in that first game,
Yes.
and he had a goal chalked off in game week 3. So that's easy 12 and 15 points that you're not getting credit for. So you're losing at least 15 points in that department. So that's a brutal noodle. And elsewhere, I just had no Brighton, and I was just a little stuck because I had Romeo Lavia as kind of my fifth midfielder.
Yeah.
And even though I had Isak and Muniz kind of keeping Holland safe in the attacking line, neither of those guys are producing to a point of being essential or kind of the preferred option. So I'm just going to switch the alchemy of my team to invest a little bit more in midfield, a
Yeah.
little bit more in defense, and know that my team is balanced with at least one good bench option. Whereas right now I have none.
Yeah, that's the tricky part, isn't it? Like, so this is where I've struggled a little bit. Whilst I've not really needed my bench as much, I think just
Sure.
having two bench options is, I feel like it's definitely needed. I feel like I've gotten away with it because I've got the points coming through from Haaland and Salah already. But I completely agree. I think just having a couple of those bench options is so handy. I really love your side. I really like
Oh,
that.
thank you.
Yeah, like I've looked at so many, I mean, there's been so many drafts just kind of appearing. It feels like everyone is wildcarding. And of course, Twitter is a bit of a bubble when it comes to what everyone is doing. And it feels like it's a bit of,
Exactly.
herd mentality going on, but actually it's tiny. And so, yeah, I'd be really interested to know how many managers activated their wildcard in game week 4. And yeah, obviously, the next sort of point of pulling the wild card is game week 6. I think that's what's being sort of socialized a little bit. I don't think I'm going to wild card in game week 6, at the moment. So, but for the sake of our audio listeners, can you just read out your
Course.
wild card side?
Yeah, so let me first tell the listeners who's for sure nailed in this team and it's not
Yeah.
going anywhere because I think
Yeah.
that's helpful because I'm still actively tinkering and I don't want to lead any listeners astray here. So Holland is locked. Salah is locked. I have João Pedro. He's a new face in my team. He's locked. Eze is going to stay put. And then I have Emblemo, TAA, and Rico Lewis. I think that's a total of 8 guys are 100% nailed in my team. And they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And the reason that's important is because that really minimizes the decision-making tree that I have to operate on to only really be picking 3 starters or kind of 4 essential players that I'm going to need to rely on as kind of the 3 other starters and first bench.
Yeah.
And
So-
so with that, go ahead.
So who are you tentative about at the moment?
Yeah, so I think the big swing position for me is Andy Robertson or that second premium defender.
Yeah.
And the reason I feel that way is because the fixtures, we talked about Aston Villa before, and the Aston Villa fixtures are fantastic. And I'm a little tempted to say that maybe Pau Torres can cover 85% of Andy Robertson.
Yeah.
It's not the high upside, but I think the clean sheets for Villa are going to come. I think that team is well set up with the fixtures that are coming down their pipe to smoke some clean sheets. And maybe the way I look at Pau is he's kind of like Jacob Greaves on Ipswich. He's the target man. So I think Konza, he's like a really boring pick and offers nothing in attack. And right now he's actually flagged. He picked up a small injury. So
Yeah.
Pau Torres is kind of the guy who looks like he could get a 15-pointer
Okay.
on Aston Villa's defense. So if I do that, right, then I have funds in the bank, 1.5 million. I could upgrade a player like Henderson very easily to Raya or even Allison. And I really like the look of Allison because set and forget, he's cheaper than the other Liverpool defenders. And he's just a better player than Konate, who's the kind of cheapest way into the Liverpool defense. So I've tinkered with a switch there. And then I also, my initial wildcard draft, which Black Wolf loved, but it drove Brian absolutely crazy, was just to have Dunk and then both João Pedro and Danny Welbeck as kind of my forwards. So to go double Brighton kind of FPL forwards.
So that would
And
be without Jackson then, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So Haaland's definitely.
And that would be
locked in,
without
yeah.
Minte. So Minte would then be
Yeah.
either Solanke or someone, a cheaper option.
Yeah. So a lot of
those are the
tinkering still to
two-
go. Yeah.
Yeah. I had Palmer in that first draft, but I've cooled on him because I just realized that if I'm not going to captain him, I'm always going to be leading to give the armband to Haaland or Salah. That's kind
Yeah.
of my takeaways from the
rotation.
first 3 game weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, that's yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I agree. I think like it's just having that extra, premium in the equation just makes it very difficult.
So let me just quickly run through my team before I
Yeah.
lose all the audio listeners. So in goal, I have Henderson. He's staying put. He stinks, but maybe all the 4.5 million keepers stink this season. So I'm just staying put. I'm gonna believe in the Palace defense.
Yeah.
And then I have Fabianski, who's coming in as my cheapest chips guy. Defense, I have Trent, Robbo, and then I have Rico Lewis, and I have Lewis Dunk. So I have the full Lewis Dunk experience. And then I have
Brilliant.
Sepp Vanderberg. And again, it's just any 4 million guy will do. But
Yeah.
I think in a pinch, Brentford probably will be the best defense among the band of 4 million options. And he's a Liverpool pedigree player. So I don't think he'll have an issue breaking into that defense and be first choice
Yeah.
in due order. But again, if I have to play him, something's gone totally disastrously wrong, and I'll probably be, blowing up my FPL team with a -8 or something to rectify matters. In attack, I've gone with 8 quality attackers, whereas my kind of previous teams have only had 7. So I have Salah, Embuemo, Eze, Minte, and Rogers in midfield. And then leading my forward line, I have Haaland, Jackson, and João Pedro. And Jackson is like my Chelsea pick. So
Yeah.
he's my guy.
Jackson's on my never buy list. I created a never
He's
buy.
scorned you.
Yeah, well, I'm not sort of, it's not been as bad as definitely, like, never say never, right? Like it's, I say
Ain't that
he's
the
on my
truth?
never buy list, but last season, I think I brought him in twice and it was awful having him both times. And so, but it was also awful having João Pedro as well. Like I brought him in very, like, beginning of the season and it just didn't work out. But yeah, Jackson, I feel a slight sort of bias there of, not going there because he didn't do so well, but he's getting the minutes and he's consistently sort of, getting amongst the goals as well. And so it makes a lot of sense. If you're not able to go Palmer, then Jackson is a good option. I say good very lightly.
He's the London Darwin Núñez kind of thing. Each team needs to have an extremely wasteful
Yes.
player in their squad. But what tempts me about Jackson is one, the certainty of minutes. If he's fit, he's going to be leading the line for. And I think Chelsea's attack are bet onable. I think they're looking very improved under Maresca, and they're
Yeah.
creating tons of chances. So I like that he's in the right position in the right system. But more so than that, I think the vibes on him are a little deceiving because he actually has more non-penalty goals since he came into the Premier League than Bukayo Saka. I know I'm definitely going to be raising some eyebrows with that stat. He has more goal involvements than some of the players that you would think are, some of the best players in the Premier League. And he can be very frustrating because, he's like a minuscule amount offsides, like 5 times a game where he shouldn't be. But he is getting tons of chances. And I think playing in front of Cole Palmer is just going to unleash his ability to get FPL points this season. So for 7.6 million, he's kind of a placeholder so that I can either jump up to Kai Havertz later in the season or also drop down to maybe reinvest and go. He could end up being like a dead forward, and then I have tons of money to go, let's say, Mbomo to Palmer at that point.
Yeah. No,
So
I think I think that's a good pick. Like it makes a lot of sense. I did sort of grab a couple of the under the radar, sort of charts as well, just to have a look at. So from an attacker's point of view, between game week 4 and 10, obviously you're thinking about your wildcard being at least, a couple of game. Although I think that's changed as well, right? Now that we can roll so many transfers as well, not necessarily having to plan for more than 5 game weeks or something like that. You're not planning that far ahead. But it's still useful to do that as well.
Yeah, I'm just planning. I think my wildcard team is looking at game week 4 to game week 8.
Yeah.
And then there'll be another international break and kind of we will reset at that point in the season. But I'm hoping that I will have banked some significant team value advantages by that point. And I'm expecting to have at least 2 free transfers by the time game week 8 rolls around. So I'll probably have to use some of my bank transfers to bring in the Arsenal guys. But beyond that, I want to have long-term flexibility. So that's why I'm wildcarding now.
Yeah. And was there any particular reason you went João Pedro versus Welbeck, who seems to be on really good form as well? And I'm trying to find Welbeck on this chart, actually. Where is he? Oh, he's over here, sort of in the middle. Yeah. Was it the pens? Like, was that the main kind of, even though there's been so few pens?
Penalties and the age. Penalties and the age and also the competition. So I think there's a realistic situation that Hoitzler is going to just lean on Welbeck as his guy because he's the man who knows how to win and compete over the course of a 38-game season. So I think he's going to be a long-term starter and a great FPL pick for those who want to go there. But this Rudder guy, just like Minte, is one of their record signings. So at some point, you have to think that a team like Brighton are going to kind of unleash their horses, and all the guys that they spent this money on are going to be getting more minutes. So Rudder is the reason I'm scared off of the double Brighton forward pairing.
Yeah.
Because I just think those are probably both transfers waiting to happen.
No, good call. Yeah, I completely agree. This is how I'm shaping up for game week 4. Okay. So I've got I made 2 transfers. So I had two free transfers going into game week 4. I took out Havertz, bought in João Pedro, similar sort of things, that we just discussed as well. I was leaning towards Welbeck, but I think, just from a minutes risk perspective, I thought, João Pedro is looking good as well. So, let me just go there. Also, I think his price, I was sort of, I don't like to do this where I'm looking at price drops and price increases, but because I had a double drop, that and the budget's really tight. Like I've had Salah, Haaland in the side, I've had Jota in the side. I didn't have Trent, previously, but I've really struggled. I had Havertz there as well. So I was trying to cover all bases, right? Beginning of the season. I mean, we're still at the beginning of the season. But I didn't have much money to play around with. And then I got a double price drop with Quanta. So I was like, you know what? I can't afford to have more price drops. My team value last season was awful. And so, and it affected me not so much now. Like I don't care about the first sort of 10 game weeks or so. Where I do care about the first 10 game weeks is not jumping on the price drops and increases when I'm confident about the players that I want to bring in. Obviously, shit can happen, and we've seen that happen during international break, especially. But I really struggled towards the tail end of the season last season when I left my wildcard to game week 28 or something like that. And I couldn't afford, I don't know, it was like 0.2 mil or something, or 0.1. And, it's just those little tiny. And then, I kept looking back to where I probably could have just got the players that I wanted, dropped the players that I didn't want, and just, avoided those price drops and price increases. I don't want to play like that. I don't want to be sort of tied to that. But if I'm confident about the players I'm bringing in, I'm just going to make the transfers, like sod the whole sort of, can't make early transfers thing. I want to play it my way. So I took out Havertz, brought in João Pedro, and I also took out Quanta and brought in Trent. So those were the two transfers that I made. I'm really happy with the side.
João Pedro is going to play. He's going to start. I know there's this narrative going around on social media. The guy is like 23 years old. He's taking a private jet. He's going to be drinking champagne and then taking a nap. He's already back in the UK. He's fine.
Love
they play
how
on Saturday.
invested.
This is like moronic. How crazy do we have to be as a fantasy community that we're like tracking these guys' flights? Like,
it's so good.
We got to go outside. There's sun. By you, I'm sure there's great street food, and in the middle of the night, you can go get a pint somewhere. We don't need to live on social media like going crazy, aggravating ourselves about if this guy's gonna play. He will play. I promise he will play.
It's so funny. And I just noticed like FPL Bateman just joined the chat. Hey, Marcus. I've really enjoyed Bateman's latest tweets about, what João Pedro is up to, like whether it's having, salmon for his, meal on his flight to, what movie he's watching. So funny.
He got the kosher option. He's having like gefilte fish, like from Rush Hour 2. So that actually could be a worry. He might be out with a tummy ache come game week 4. But other than that, he'll be there. Amex, he'll be rearing. Yeah.
Exactly. I'm not crazy about having Henderson there, but like you said, 4.5. I am tempted, like when I do wildcard, I'm not sure exactly when I'm not tying myself down to wildcard 6, although I did look at that. Although I could get to the wildcard 6 team that I kind of wanted with a couple of free transfers as well. So I thought, let me not sort of, think too hard about what goalkeeper I want later on. Henderson will do, for the time being. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to make a transfer there. But I've got Porro, Trent and Robinson at the back there, and I've got Jota, Rogers, Smith Rowe and Salah. Lots of home fixtures this game week, at least for the popular picks that we've all got. And then we've got Haaland, Isak and João Pedro playing up front. And look, the only away fixture I've got there is Isak away to Dan's beloved Wolves. And so I'm really hoping that Isak gets a tidy, brace there. Sorry, Dan. But I'm hoping that Isak will get a brace because so many managers have taken him out. And it's a shocker.
He's the most sold player in the game. And I really like that he knows that. He gave an interview on international duty, and he basically told all the FPL managers to watch out and to be ready for pain when he goes and reins in the returns against the Wolves.
Yeah, it's going to be, I think that's going to be a good match. I really hope I get rewarded for keeping Isak and getting rid of Havertz. So it's going to be an interesting watch over the weekend. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Porro over Gabriel. What's your take there? Just back in the attacker?
Yeah, that's basically it. I'm also thinking, I know Arsenal have got what's it? Who's the other? Jorginho, right? If Rice, do we think Jorginho is going to play? I'm not sure. I just don't know how their, defensive mid is going to be, how they're going to be shaping up as well. I just think Porro's just been looking so good. I feel for those that don't have Porro in the side because he's just getting in around the box so much and, just taking shots across all these set pieces as well. And yeah, just looking really, really good. So I'm happy to have him and probably hold him for a little while before I make a decision about whether I'm keeping him or not in the long term. But just that attacking player, versus Gabriel. I mean, Gabriel does have the attacking threat as well, of course. But I think for this match, just picking the home fixture more than anything.
Yeah, I think this is showing that you don't think either team is going to keep a clean sheet. So you're betting on the fact that Porro is more likely to get in a goal involvement than Gabriel, which I agree with. I agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be hard to watch if somehow Gabriel gets something, somehow they keep a clean sheet. But yeah, I just don't see it happening. But yeah, I'm really happy with what I've got there. Captaincy's on
set up.
Haaland at the moment.
Oh, you're going against your guy.
I am. I just feel like Haaland is in the mood for a hat-trick of hat-tricks. That's what it feels like to me. And I've been playing with Gut at the moment. And it looks like Foden's back in the side as well, potentially. So, yeah, it could be an interesting match to see how City are now shaping up as well. With obviously international break has been good for those injured players and or stomach bugs or whatever has been going on for them. So hopefully that will be good for Haaland. But I don't know, maybe I'll make a last-minute switcheroo to Salah. I did that last game week, and so I had it on Haaland for majority of game week leading up to game week 3, and then I switched over to Salah. Just again, it was just vibes on Salah loves playing United. So I was like, you know what? Yeah, why not? Just go for it. So it might be the same this time round. It just depends on the build-up towards the deadline. And make a gut call on that a bit later.
I always like to watch the game that my captain is playing in. I know that sounds ridiculous to probably many FPL managers, but that if I was like 50-50, that would be what sways me. So the fact that you are for sure going to watch the Liverpool matches. Yeah. So that would be something that swings it in Mo Salah's favor. But I think your team is really well set up. The Fulham guys are kind of what I fear that many managers who wildcard in game week 4 might be feeling about the Brighton guys in short order. It's like, why do I have a triple up on Brighton when they're like, when they go through the not, very sexy fixtures? And I think Fulham could be the same kind of trap for a lot of managers who went there and got the points early.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Colm just said we may get a Henderson clean sheet this game week, hopefully. Fingers crossed. That would be
Don't let
great.
Jamie Vardy see that message.
So I started to look at Jamie Vardy for a future game weeks because there's some good fixtures coming up for Leicester, of course. I just feel like it's going to be an interesting pick a little bit later. Who knows? Speaking of sort of interesting picks, shall we have a look at some of our punt picks? So I introduced a new segment this season called Punty McPunt Face. And so for just one game week only and less than 10% owned or selected, let's talk about our Punty McPunt Face picks. So Bucks, you picked Nicholas Jackson. I was really surprised that he was less than 10% owned.
In real life. Yeah, I picked him in real life in FPL and for McPunty McPunt Face. Because he is my guy. And I'm wrapping my arms around him. I'll be slagged on socials and in the group chats. I'm okay with it. I believe in him and I want to believe in this Chelsea product. So it's optimism, maybe blind optimism is what's leaning me here. But I think 12 points against Bournemouth, against Kepa, he has short arms and is not Premier League keeper sized. He's like, he's like small fries when you could just get a medium for 30 cents extra, as many Americans will understand that reference. And I just think he's going to get points in these next 3 game weeks. I think 23 points in the next 3 game weeks.
Wow. Nice. I am definitely seeing Nicholas Jackson pop up in many wildcard drafts as well. So
No,
yeah,
people are
yeah.
people are s- they're stealing my IP address and taking my
It's
team.
I think it's the how well priced the picks the premium slots have been
Yeah.
this season, right? Like the Palmers and the Saka and Sons, they're priced so high that you're forced to look at the other players, and obviously Nkuku hasn't quite worked out in terms of getting in the positions, but also minutes. And yeah, so I think Jackson just in that attacking spot is looking really good as an option there from Chelsea.
You
Yeah,
flatter me, Mira. I appreciate. I paid you to say that one nice thing
absolutely.
about Nico
Thank
Jackson.
you. He's still on
And
my
then
do not buy list.
I know he's still there. He's still there. We're working to massage him off there. My backup option is Lewis Dunk. So I think that if
Yeah.
you have like a Kwanzaa size problem in your team or Lewis Hall, even that it might feel sideways because it is a short term looking move. But the Ipswich fixture for Brighton for Lewis Dunk, I think he has potential goal. He might have a potential clean sheet. So the upside is there. And again, he's a 90-minute man. He sometimes wears the captain's armband for Brighton. So it's just a very safe pick, but in the short term, it has great upside. So I
Yeah.
think he's also like 7% owned. So I like
Yeah,
both those picks.
super low, super low. I did go for a Brighton player, so I went for Mitoma.
Ooh,
And
he got
yeah, like
expensive.
yeah, well, this is it. Like, so he is expensive, but he's been getting returns already. Like, he's playing well. Just seems to be again in around that goal, like in terms of involvement, frequently. And I just feel like the Ipswich fixture and then the home fixture against Forest as well. It's just a really good opportunity. I mean, I know it's for one. It is pretty much the price point. I think 6.5, and he's 6.6 now. But it's so lowly owned, 8.9%. It's very low for Mitoma, who's been playing very, very well. So, yeah, I reckon there's some good points potential there. Probably assists, I imagine. Hopefully, Pedro goals, Mitoma assists.
Yeah, I don't hate that. I think the issue with Mitoma is that you really he has to be your guy over a guy like Minte or over kind of a second Brighton attacker. Like if you go João Pedro and Welbeck or you go João Pedro and Minte, you're
Yeah,
saving a whole 1.1 million. And that can go a long way to
that's
strengthening the rest of your team.
absolutely, absolutely. And I think that's I mean, these are punt picks, so it's, how,
For a
like
reason.
Minte's like highly owned now. I didn't realize, like, he's pretty highly owned now. Same as Rogers. I think, like, again, Rogers is another player that's due a haul of some sorts. At least, like, some returns would be very, very nice.
Amen. I agree.
Before we jump to the questions, actually, let's have a look at some of the Twitter questions that came up. So, FPL
Sure.
Crisis, Ash is from our FPL community over here in Australia, in Sydney specifically. Three-part question for you, John. Given you're on a early wildcard, do you have a plan to switch between premiums using free transfers? So this is I guess the switcheroo that we were,
The
briefly
Lego
touched on
Mane
earlier. Yeah.
graphic. So right now I don't. And I know the move should be pretty obvious of going Salah to Saka in game week 6. But as I mentioned on our podcast, one more shout out for at FPL USA Press Play. I think that Saka can be swerved. So I think that the Salah versus Wolves fixture is almost as good as Saka going against one of the newly promoted teams. And I just think that Salah has a history of explosive FPL returns, whereas Saka, as I mentioned, he's more of like a season keeper. So that's why you love him. He always plays like
Yeah.
85 to 95 minutes, and he's involved. He's very involved, but he's not like he's not a talisman in the way that he's always commanding the final goal. Whereas I feel like Salah, if it's going to the left or going to the right, it's always going to Mo. He
Yes.
just has that kind of gravitational force. So I'm a little more wishy-washy on the premium plan, but I know that if you have two of them, you'll always be in a position where you can jump on and off those guys.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Name a few buy low picks who are likely to be quite popular soon. So, question for both of us.
You take it first, Meera.
Buy low picks. Pick could be an interesting one. I think they've just got really good fixtures, and like you mentioned, after Solanke leaving as well, like Semeny's kind of in that talismanic kind of role as well. So maybe that it could be popular. I think it's very cheap at the moment, still 5.5. So those that are jumping off of ESR, maybe thinking about that pick. Yeah, I can't really think of many. I think because I'm not really changing up my team, and you've been looking at your team a fair bit more than I probably have. So who else has been hitting your radar?
Yeah, so I think the Brentford attacking duo is being massively slept on. Yes, the next two fixtures are not good. They play City followed by Liverpool, which
Yeah.
is like that reads danger, stay away. But I think Mbomo and Wissa, in the absence of Tony, are it's almost a crime how underpriced they are with their FPL potential output. I was reading that I think Mbomo averages over 1 goal involvement without Tony in the side, and
Wow.
it's not a small sample size anymore. It's over 20 matches, and Wissa at 6 million, that's a joke. I mean, he's so much better as an FPL player than a guy like Muniz, who I kicked to the curb as soon as my wildcard draft was activated. So I really think Wissa and Mbomo have the
Yeah.
potential to be game changers for the FPL game. And then a player that I think is underpriced, but he should be dropping in price, but someone has their fingers on the scale right now at FPL Towers, so it's not happening, is
Yeah.
Solanke.
Yeah.
And I think, yes, he hasn't come good yet. He's had this weird injury and there's lack of clarity. But for those who are going on game week 6, game week 8, game week 10 wild card strategy, Solanke could be a blessing in disguise, especially if he price falls, excuse me, in the
Yeah.
next couple days. Because if you can get him for like 7.3 million, I think he has the potential to do 180, 190 points still this season.
Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. And when I did my very quick wildcard draft, I had Wissa in there as
You had
well. I just
Wissa,
feel
yeah.
like I feel like it's just a really good combination to get in on soon. Yeah, if you're not going Jackson, if you're not going Havertz, at the moment as well. Last question there from Ash. Can the Dolphins win AFC East, and will anybody stop? Is it Mahomes? Mahomes? How do you say
Mahomey.
that?
No, it's
Mahomes?
Mahomes.
Mahomes, yeah.
Mahomes.
This season.
This is more of a question for my pod partner Brian, who's an absolute NFL addict. I have chosen my footy of choice, and I have kind of moved away from NFL football to lean more heavily into the EPL and FPL. So I
Yeah.
don't play any NFL fantasy anymore, which disappoints a lot of my high school and college friends who are still actively doing that. But the answer for you, Ash, is it's not out of reason. I think the Dolphins are a really exciting team. If they can beat the cops and not go to jail before every match, then I think they have a really good chance of beating the rest of the AFC East. But
Nice.
if you're a wagering man, the easiest bet, it's almost like betting on the S&P 500 here in the States, is just put a wager on the Chiefs to win and Mahomes to win the Super Bowl MVP every year. It's hit, I believe, 2 out of the last 4 seasons. So you could take that as some financial advice from your boy Bucks here, Ash.
Fantastic. I love that. I love that. Last question from Twitter, and then we'll jump to the chat as well.
Sure.
There was a couple of questions there as well. From my Cayman fan, Matt, nice, love to see it, Meera. Thank you. I think I can't remember what it was, but yep, curious to hear your thoughts on the best cheap GK to own at the moment.
So I think there's probably 3 that are in serious contention. There's Verbruggen, who's the goalkeeper for Brighton. There is Flecken, who's the goalkeeper for Brentford, and then there's Dean Henderson, who's the goalkeeper for Palace. And I'm saying it in that order because I actually think that that's the right order. I think Verbruggen, he's probably the best of the bunch, and Brighton have the potential to be the best defense out of the three.
Yeah.
But the fixtures are tough to navigate from a Brighton point of view. They have two really good ones, and then they have a sea of kind of bad and then decent and then bad and then decent. So there's not really a clean stretch where you can be like, okay, I'm going to feel great captaining or starting this guy, each and every game week.
Yeah.
Whereas on the complete flip side of that, Dean Henderson, he has a good match in game week 4, and they have a couple tougher matches to come. But then again, between game week 6 and game week 10, I think they have another 3 or 4 really nice green fixtures. So it's kind of just, the real answer is it's Raya, Allison, or just pick, throw the dart and just pick someone. Because I feel like right now, the only teams that look assured for clean sheets are Arsenal and Liverpool.
Yeah. I think as the premium picks, definitely. I feel like I'm leaning towards Raya at the moment. I think if I do triple up on Arsenal, I'm not sure if I will. I might just kind of go with two options there, one defense, one attack. But if I do triple up, I like the Raya pick there. But from a cheap pick, I've been seeing a lot of managers go for Flecken in their side over going Henderson as the cheap picks as well. So yeah, I think it's really hard to say. I think if you're looking for clean sheets, I think it's going to come down to just maybe 1 or 2 here and there. I was listening to, was it you guys who mentioned, no, I don't think it was you. I think it was the FML FPL guys. Or I think it was Elon was having a chat with Late Riser, and they were talking about Pickford potentially being an option a little bit later, which was... Yeah, I was like, oh, I'm not a fan of that. But I think he's like 5 mil or something. So a little bit in between. Not loving it, but yeah.
I would rather, I think I would rather go Pope at that price.
Oh,
if you're
wow.
Go in that messy middle, Pope, their defense is just better. The issue with Everton is you don't want to ever be watching Everton. So that's my words of wisdom, to just swerve them entirely for FPL, lest your eyeballs start bleeding in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll jump over to the questions that we've got in the chat, and I'll pop them up on the screen as well as we go. Actually, let me just reshare the screen so you can see what I can see as well.
Oh, fantastic.
So hopefully you can see these questions. So calm. So Bucks, all the USA players that have played for Fulham, and you went to the dark side with Pulisic. Am I saying his name right?
Pulisic, my fandom predates Christian Pulisic by a number of years. It's a longer story, and I won't bore you, but I played center defensive mid, and in 2005 I went to London for a family celebration. I ended up going to see Chelsea play West Ham, and then I loved it so much that I begged my family to get the cheapest possible ticket. We sat in like the last row, and there was beer flying everywhere. My dad was horrified, but I was in absolute teenage paradise. And we ended up seeing Chelsea play Hotspurs as well. So I got like 2 games in, and I've been a Chelsea fan ever since. And I timed it really well, because that was right when John Terry and Frank Lampard really took the club from being a serious team and, they were in the mix, and then they went to become like world beaters, and they went on this 10 to 12 year tear when they kind of won every single title that there was to win in world football. So I'm Chelsea through and through. I'm wearing one of my throwbacks. I'm wearing a Claude Makelele.
Nice.
The Makelele midfielder, number 4. So I have a huge kit collection. I have 2 daughters. I've gotten them seriously into Chelsea.
I love it.
Everyone in my family
so
knows blue is the color, not the lily whites.
Love it. So Mr. T Tendai, is Salah essential when you already have, I presume, either Jota or Luis Diaz, and also have Trent as well? I'm 50-50 on Salah. I think Salah is essential when you already have, I presume, either Jota or Luis Diaz, and also have Trent as well. I'm 50-50 on Salah. I think Salah is essential when you already have Jota or Luis Diaz, and also have Trent as well. I'm 50-50 on Salah. I think Salah is essential when you already have, I presume, either Jota or Luis Diaz, and also have Trent as well. I'm 50-50 on Salah. I think Salah is essential when you already have, I presume, either Jota or Luis Diaz, and also have Trent as well. I'm 50-50 on Salah. I think Salah is essential when you already have, I presume, either Jota or Luis Diaz, and also have Trent as well. I'm 50-50 on Salah. I think Salah is essential when you already have, I presume, either Jota or Luis Diaz, and also have Trent as well. I'm 50-50 on Salah. I think Salah is essential when you already have, I presume, either Jota or Luis Diaz, and also have Trent as well. I'm 50-50 I'm fine. I'm trying to talk myself into having Salah as already have Haaland. Right. Okay. So yeah. So it looks like he's already got 3 Liverpool players. Is Salah essential? I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say he's. I mean, it depends. Like if I didn't have those 3 players already, so Jota, Luis Diaz, and Trent, then I wouldn't say rip up your team and get Salah in.
I agree, but I think that if you have 2 of them, then
Yeah.
Salah, you should find a pathway to get Salah into your
Yeah.
team. And the thing is, he can do even better than he's doing right now. He has 3 goals and 3 assists, and he has 41 FPL points. In the next 3 game weeks, he could have 4 goals and 2 assists and score even more points. I mean, he's just that kind and
Yeah.
caliber of player. And the problem is there's this kind of coverage narrative that exists in the FPL community. And as much as we'd like to be kind of drunken sailors thinking that, the Jota or Luis Diaz can cover one of the greatest ever Premier League players, the reality is when it comes to the brass tacks and putting the FPL points in your account, Salah is just head and shoulders above both those guys.
Yeah. 100%.
Even with the hairdo.
He looks great, doesn't he? I mean, with the
Yeah, he's
hairdo
the
as well. I
man.
mean, he looks great. Like, I'm not going to lie. He looks amazing. But he's just looking very different this season as well. Like, he's always been in form. And, as he's getting older, I feel like he's just got better and better. And still, it's just looking phenomenal at the moment on the pitch. Yeah.
Yeah, credit to Liverpool, who have really done a brilliant bit of business getting this Arnie Slot guy in, because he looks the real
so
deal.
good. Yeah.
And they haven't lost a step. And watching him in that post-game press conference after watching Liverpool just wipe the pitch with Manchester United, and then Slot is like, he could be the best United coach in the Premier League, even if he's spending 70% of his time coaching Liverpool, which is a real disaster if you're a Manchester United supporter. So I apologize there. But I think Salah, the rest thing is not being talked about nearly enough. So him and Haaland having the off season off, whereas a lot of top FPL players were at Euros
that's
or
so
at
true.
Copa.
Yeah.
They're fit, they're hungry, and they have all this stamina to just go and prove it this season, because there have been a lot of doubters with the Nolan community, or that it's just anyone could score bunches of goals playing for City. And Salah, he's in a contract year. He was verbally and almost physically getting into altercations with Klopp last season.
Oh,
It's kind of like
that
a
didn't
Tom
look good.
Brady, Bill Belichick thing.
Yeah.
So Salah is the real deal. Haaland's the real deal, and they're fit and they're firing right now. So
Yeah,
I want them both.
the narrative around that, like the no Haaland, is just been bizarre. I just don't get it. Like, you want to pick the players that are going to give you the most points. Isn't that the name of the game? Anyway.
Yeah, for sure. I think I would have him at 18 million. That was my claim before this season.
Yeah, yeah. No chance in bringing in Nicholas Jackson for me. Sorry, that's not going to happen.
You got to bring me back on here. I'll convince you.
That's not going to happen. So Luis Bonilla, the question from him is, start one out of Mbumo, Armstrong, or Robinson. Fulham's defender. Thanks. Oh, wow, watching that was a while ago, and so early. Thank you so much for tuning in. Start one out of Mbumo, Armstrong, or Robinson.
So I think the analytics would probably lean Robinson. Because but I think for me, gut check, Mbomo is the one who I would pick.
Yeah.
I actually think, and I've said this a couple times, I think Brentford score. They have been a tough team. Thomas Frank is a really top-level manager, and he gives Pep problems. And the City defense is not at the level that they have been in seasons past. Plus, they just lost Nathan Ake to a really devastating-looking injury on this international break.
Yeah, that's right.
So I just think this is a good time to be playing against City defense from a Brentford perspective, because they're in form, and City might not be at their full unleashed level. So I would say Mbomo for the upside, but you're probably looking at like 3, 2, and 3 points here.
Yeah, agree.
Right? I think that's the most likely outcome.
Agree. I think like if you don't have to play your defender, it's just I think by default I would just play attacker, and the best
Totally.
attacker that you can, as well out of that
I think
combination.
it's this season and seasons past. It's kind of like you go 3-4-3 or 3-5-2, and
That's
those
it.
are really the
Yeah.
only two viable options.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Completely agree. Brian's question was, would you rather use 2 free transfers to get Mo this week, or wildcard from a place of strength and have 3 free transfers afterwards? Good question.
All right, so I know Brian's team pretty intimately, so he's
Okay.
basically weighing up going Saka to Salah, and I think he has Havertz also. I think he has the same front line
Yeah.
as you do. So he was thinking of going from Isak out to basically bring in Salah. So João Pedro in for Isak,
Yeah.
Saka
And then
out
upgrade.
for Salah. I think
I think it's
said
worth
this on
it.
the podcast. Really, I'm leaning the alternate. I think he's going to captain Holland. So I actually think that
Okay.
for Brian specifically, Brian hasn't used a free transfer all season. So I
Oh,
think
wow.
yeah, he's spoiled for choice. He could realistically go into wild card 6 with 3 free transfers. And I think if he does that, not only will he be a step ahead of many in the community, but he'll also be able to kind of do two. He'll be able to do his wild card and then almost do like a mini wild card going into
After
that
that.
second
Yeah.
international break.
Yeah.
So I think for his team, taking a couple points less of a ceiling in this game week could be a move to then kind of hit the ground in a really serious way in game week 6. So I think Saka and Isak might score the same amount as Salah and João Pedro. I wouldn't bet on it, but it's
I don't
it's
know.
definitely
I mean, we
possible.
just talked about trying to get Salah in if you can, right? Like we
Yeah,
just,
that's
we
true.
just had that conversation. Liverpool's got 2 home fixtures coming up in the next 2. So I don't know. I would probably want to bring Salah in at the moment.
Yeah.
Like I get
I
it.
guess
I get it. And you're right.
If you want to captain, Salah, probably next game week is where you'd really want to have Salah, because that's when Manchester City and Arsenal play against each other.
Yeah, fair.
And so you're
From a
not going to want
captaincy
to
point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to want to captain Saka or Holland in a perfect world there. So yeah, I guess you'd make the move now so that you can bank the free transfer next game week. It makes sense.
Maybe. Yeah, I think it's just the opportunity, like just having the opportunity. You got to be in it to win it, kind of mindset, right? What other questions do we have? Start and Boomo. No, we just covered that one. Louise, Colm. It took Everton 8 and 6 game weeks over the last 2 seasons to keep a clean sheet. I remember getting rid of Pickford.
Yeah, Branthwaite is, if he's not fit, this team is a total shell of themselves. He could be the most singularly important player for any team in the entire Premier League.
Yeah, absolutely. I took out Pickford just before he got his 9-pointer clean sheet, and then continued getting some clean sheets as well. I was just like, you just can't make this shit up.
I remember that. I think Let's Talk FPL also had that same quandary. He took all the 1 and 2 pointers only to then swerve, and then all of a sudden it was like a 9-pointer, an 8-pointer, 11-pointer, and I think game week 10 he was like almost crying on some of the streams.
Oh, it was awful. I think last season was just, it was such a roller coaster for me. I was, like I mentioned, I was hovering around the 2 million, 4 million sort of mark. And then the last sort of 10 game weeks or 10 to 15 game weeks of the season, I just hustled my way to 64K at the end there. But yeah, it was hard work. It got me playing in a different way. But some of those picks, seriously, like taking out Pickford at the wrong time, I felt maybe, but right time at the time, who knows. But
Small margins, big
small
big
margins.
impact.
Yeah. And I think I see that happening more this season because of the price points. There are so many options at those different price points as well. You mentioned my team looks very different, my non-wildcard team, but it looks very different because there are so many different options. There are so many different variables now. So, yeah, I'm loving how this season is going so far. Just hope it continues for me as well. Like it's on this upward trajectory at the moment. I'd love it to continue that way as well.
I love it. Yeah, maybe you have your highest finish actually is coming this season. It wasn't in the 4 digits where you landed a couple seasons back.
Yeah, gosh, yeah. I think after I got that finish in my second season, there was a part of me that was like, oh, why am I playing? Is there any point? I've
We
peaked.
Gotta win it. We still gotta win it.
I've peaked. This is it. Whatever. Just move on. So we got a question from Charlie: who to bench? Saka, Bruno, Eze, Gordon, Rogers, Isak, Haaland, João Pedro. That's a lot of option. How many are you benching? Surely you're not benching Haaland, Isak, Gordon, Bruno. Oh, blimey. Yeah, I see your point. But
I think it's kind of this question. It's kind of like Bruno, Gordon, or João Pedro.
Yeah.
Or I guess Rogers. Maybe Rogers is the one that has to be benched.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think because if you have Bruno in your team, you have to start him against Southampton. And Rogers is the budget enabler in this question. So I almost default to just you want to have the funds on the pitch in your starting 11. So I would say probably Rogers is the one that has to make way.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
You have too many good options, Charlie. One of those guys should be sold to a guy that has maybe better upside in game week 6 to 10, so that you don't have to deal with this each and every game week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I would not feel good about having. I guess you can have that side without Salah, right? That's the thing. Like I didn't do a draft without Haaland or Salah when I started the season. So I didn't even socialize the idea of having all these other players that I could have. Because I went straight off the bat. I went, no, I'm going to have Salah and Haaland in team, and then everyone else is just going to fit around that. I'm going to make it work. Yeah, glad I did.
And I should say I'm a Bruno manager. He's not my cup of tea, but he is going to come good. He's just so central. I made the comment about Branthwaite. If Branthwaite is first place, Bruno is second place as the kind of singular most important player to their team, and he's a brilliant talent. But he's just if he was the coach, Man United would be doing better than the current guy in charge. So take that or leave it for what it is.
No, look, I have no love towards United, unfortunately, and none of the players either. I think, I'm sorry, this is not that type of a stream. No love there at all. Bruno, I just find him very whingy and whiny, and he's just constantly got screw face on as well. And
he has a very punchable face.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely. And you know what the most annoying thing is so far? So we're hitting game week 4, and there's been 3 fixtures where United have played the first match. They've been, or not the first match, actually. I think there was an earlier one as well. But the 9:30 p.m. game over here in Australia has been United, and this will be for the 3rd time that it's United playing. And I like watching that game because it's an early one, and I've got time to watch it as well, and it's not at a stupid o'clock that it normally is. So I'm so annoyed that it's United playing again on Saturday.
It's a reminder that despite their recent spell of bad form over the couple of last seasons, they're still by far and away the biggest box office hit from the Premier League. All those 90s and late 80s kids growing up with their parents, making them drink the Man United Kool-Aid, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's pretty much it. It's been so good to, I'm just going to stop sharing my screen if I can. Yep, I think I managed to do that. Bucks, what a great stream. It's been so good to talk to you. There's been so much conversation as well. It's been, amazing to just, get chatting to you about all the things. And this is what this stream has, for me, this show has been pretty much that. It's been, a combination of life, FPL, everything in between, and, talking about our game weeks and the highs and lows. And it's been wonderful having you on the show and just getting your insights as well, getting some of the hot takes and tips and a little bit of a, a shoe in, or I guess a view of your podcast as well, which you've co-founded, and with Brian and with Dan as well. It's been really great, having you on the show. So thank you so much. Great questions as well from a whole bunch of people as well. To those that are watching, please do like and subscribe if you like this type of content. I actually hit 500 subscribers during international break, which was wonderful.
Boom.
Yeah,
congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and I'm very surprised, really happy.
We gotta utilize hashtag FPL USA and the hashtag FPL community to get that number to 1,000 followers and subscribers.
That'd be amazing.
Let's do that. Come on,
that'd be amazing. No pressure.
Let's go. End of second IB. Let's try and double that. Oof. I have to give you credit and really appreciate you bringing me on. This has been brilliant fun for me and my first live and visual podcast. So sorry to everyone in the stream for your eyes, and anyone who's watching later on that you have to look at my sorry state of face. But yeah, gosh. It's so good to repay you coming and guest hosting on our podcast to join you on your Off the Cuff series. And yeah, I'm a big fan of yours, Meera, and I'm cheering for you this season. I think, if I don't win it, I hope that you do.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And tell us where everyone can find you for your podcast and for, following you on whatever account that you're using as well.
Sure. So on social media, I'm at FPLUSABux. That's BUX. And our podcast is at FPL USA Press Play. Now, we are a global podcast, but we have a special affinity to the US of A, where all three of our managers are based, and Black Wolf kind of leads the efforts to mobilize the stateside FPL community. We run an amazing free-to-enter podcast league that has a free kit that goes out to the overall winner, and we also organize a countrywide league, 4 different tiers. I don't know how Black Wolf does it. The guy has plenty of time on his hands, apparently, or at least he's much more efficient than I am. So it's me, Black Wolf, and Brian do that podcast. And then beyond that, just a big Chelsea fan and a big consumer of FPL content. So if you are active on X or Twitter or whatever your preferred title of that is, I strongly suggest giving Meera a follow at FPLMez8. And if you're scrolling and you're seeing these posts, maybe you chuck me a follow also. I really appreciate it.
I've really enjoyed following you over the last couple of seasons. So honestly, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. So thank you so much again for giving up so much of your time as well. It's been a great long stream, and I always find the guest streams end up being long as well. It's a really good listen. I will timestamp this video as well. And make it available, fairly soon after this stream as well. So, Bucks, thank you once again. And thank you to everyone that tuned in as well, live especially. Really appreciate you being there. All the questions, all the interactions have been very, very lovely and helpful. Thank you again, and take care. May your arrows be green. Have fun. Enjoy the last couple of days of international break. Oh, I don't know. Maybe people are starting to tune into
I'm ready.
I'm ready as well. I'm ready for it. But good luck everyone, and have fun. Take it easy, and catch you hopefully next week.
Yeah, good night, good morning, and good afternoon. Thanks, Meera.
Thank you. Thanks again. See you everyone. Thanks. Bye.